Hello, hello. Welcome to Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. What's up, Steve?
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Where are you today? Because I think you're somewhere different every
Yeah,
time
well,
we do these.
I'm actually on the road in Long Island and just coming between meetings and things. So this show is very important. So we have to, as travel, we have to continue that road show. So Stephanie did a great work last couple of weeks without me.
It's hard to keep life going without you, Steve, but I try. I try to do what I can do.
Oh, you'll manage just well. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 5:30 now, and starting next week will be from 6 to 6:30. We're gonna push it up an hour. I know in Texas that means 5 to 5:30, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in New York it's 6 to 6:30. We're gonna be on the live radio back in Florida, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, and Tampa Bay, and we'll be live streamed as well. So looking forward to that. And Stephanie, we have an amazing guest here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to introduce Kiona. Kiona is a passionate workplace well-being coach and motivational speaker who draws on her background in sales and account management to inspire and empower individuals and transform organizations to achieve their full potential. She delivers engaging talks and workshops that focus on personal values, mindfulness, resilience, goal setting, and positive thinking, helping teams and organizations foster a sense of belonging and purpose. With her unique blend of experience and inspiration, she's the perfect guide to help you unlock your true potential and lead your teams and communities with purpose, strategy, strength, and courage. Specializing in workplace well-being, Kiona helps leaders design and implement workplace well-being programs and offers keynote speaking, workshops, and coaching on various topics. So welcome, Kiona. Let's bring her on. Hello.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
Doing
That's impressive
good.
work that you're doing there, Kiona.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about, first of all, where are we talking to you from today? Is it cold? Because I'm in Texas and everyone's walking around shivering. Now, say nothing, Steve, because I know that New York would laugh at how all of us are cold here in Texas, but it's been like in the 30s here and everyone's in their flip-flops and t-shirts freezing to death for some reason.
Uh, well, you got some thin blood now, Stephanie, since you moved away from New York.
People are not prepared. They seriously are in flip-flops and they're like, why am I cold? I'm like, because you need to dress for the weather. So Kyoto, where are you right now?
That sounds very familiar, actually. I'm currently in Portugal, and during the day it's really nice and sunny, but during the night it drops completely. And I also see people walking around in flip-flops here, which it shocks me. It surprises me, honestly. I don't think I could do it.
People don't want to let go. They're like, it's warm out. I want it to stay warm. And like, no, it's not really so warm at night anymore, but it's really funny. So, okay, so you're in
Mm.
Portugal now, but you're not from
Yeah.
Portugal, right? You just get to like go wherever.
Yeah, that's right. I'm from the Netherlands and I lived in the UK and in London for 7 years. And I eventually started on my digital nomad journey. So I'm basically just traveling around, and home is where the heart is, as they say. But this is truly the case in my situation, because wherever I go, I make it my home, and I make it my place to be and live.
That's
That,
awesome.
that's
Steve's
that's
trying to do that more.
fantastic. Now, before we get to the specifics of your work, Kiona, talk about
Yes.
how the pandemic has affected you and your work over the last couple of years.
Mm, Thank you for that question. It's actually, you're going to get a very interesting answer, because I wasn't doing this work before the pandemic hit at all. So for me, it's had a huge impact. It allowed me to take a step back and reflect on what my life looked like at that time, and also consider whether it was still the right place for me to be. And so I started searching for something to do that didn't involve watching Netflix all the time, because you have so much time in your hands and you don't really have a whole lot of things to do because you're not allowed to go outside, or whatever the situation was in lockdown. And so on that journey of finding something to do, I found coaching. And that's actually helped me a lot, because not only was I learning to be a coach, I also had a beautiful community of people who were going through the same coaching training at that time online, that I was constantly in touch with. So I actually found my community, and I found more connection within that time than I could have ever imagined. And I suppose it also kickstarted the thinking, the thought pattern for me to go travel and become a digital nomad. So yeah, lots of things happened.
So it's interesting how, everyone's story of the pandemic is just so different, and how, there was a lot of people that took that as an opportunity to really evolve and change the direction they were going. So what actually, it's great that you found community and you were able to create this beautiful business. What really inspired you to say, hey, this is what I want to do? Like, was there something that was going on personally, or something that was like, I just need to learn more? What was going on for you then?
Yeah, great question. There was definitely a lot going on for me personally at that time. I was in a software company. I was a account executive, and I focused on selling software into organizations in Africa, individuals in Africa. And I thought that was so inspiring for me because I learned a lot about new cultures, and I got to meet new people, and I got to build beautiful connections with resellers, and also clients, of course. But what I realized during the pandemic is that it was a dream that I was following that was someone else's dream. It wasn't my dream. It wasn't really something that I'd considered even going further into. It wasn't the career that I was chasing or really wanted to evolve into. And on top of that, I had just ended a relationship with someone who was in my workplace. That wasn't the best way of stepping out of a relationship and moving on, being in, first of all, stepping out of a relationship with someone who's still in the same organization as you. And then second of all, that also being a relationship that wasn't necessarily the best one for me, because I felt that I'd lost my sense of purpose. I didn't really know who I was anymore. And I got to the point that I just started doubting myself with every single little decision, even that I needed to make. And so this then triggered down into my coaching as well, because I felt in the workplace, and not just by my ex, but also with other people within the organization, higher managers, etc., that there was a sense of I wasn't being valued in the right way, and there was some conflict, some relationship, some interpersonal relationship conflicts going on in there as well. And so going through the journey of my coaching, first I started working on myself and having that sense of, okay, I dated someone in the workplace. How am I going to deal with that? Then that evolved into, okay, what about all the other people in this workplace that I spend 8 hours a day with, 9 hours a day with? What about them? Was that relationship with them, was that okay? Was the relationship with myself, was that okay? And then realizing and uncovering that actually all of those relationships had one golden thread going through what was going on in that moment, which was that I didn't love myself enough to express that outward, and I didn't expect people to love me in the same way too. And so this is where sort of the toxic relationship conversation comes in, because I wasn't aware that I was pulling this toward me, and that I'd attracted this into my life. And then, as you probably know as well, with coaching, you start to realize that this has such a big impact on you. If you don't reflect on these kind of things, you wouldn't have necessarily found that out. Yeah.
That's very interesting, because it took the pandemic, a relationship change, a broken relationship, to pivot to what you're doing now. And I think it's a testimony to who you are and that internal resources and drive that you have to help others. So you could have easily turned a different direction, but you did not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just did a video today it was a short that just said something to the effect of, if you believe that all relationships are bad, that all men are unhealthy, you're too old to make changes, or every guy just wants to get in your pants, basically, you're going to be right. And I think I say that because I love what you said before, where all these things were going on, and instead of like blaming it on the outside, you said, what's going on here? What's going on the inside that's making all of these things happen to me, and started to really look within. Do you find that sometimes it's hard to get clients to really take real massive responsibility for some of the things that are going on for themselves?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, I did too at the beginning. I blamed everyone and everything around me because it's just easier, right? Than to say, okay, something's going on with me and I need to figure this out for myself. And I see this reflecting into all the conversations I have with my clients as well. When it comes down to having a deeper conversation about their relationships, yeah, it's hard to admit that you might be the cause of the relationships or the relationship conflict that you're having, or people not honoring your boundaries, for example, and just having a relationship where you don't feel safe to share with the other person that you're not okay and that there's something going on. And just admitting to yourself that that might be coming from you as an individual, and then that being a mirror of what you're doing to them, right? And again, with clients specifically, I don't feel like it's fair to say, hey, you need to look at yourself because it's clearly something that you're doing yourself, because people are just going to contract and they're going to go, no, it's not me. How can you say that? I can't believe you would say that it's all starting with me. You need to approach these things really, really differently and slowly, and uncover bit by bit what they might be holding on to as a belief and what story that they are telling themselves that is reflecting back in the relationship that they currently have. And so the short answer is yes, I definitely see that in the conversations that I have with my clients. Yeah.
How do you deal with, Steve, I don't know if you're going to ask something, but how do you deal with workplace? Because there's so many different personalities. And I mean, if you think about every single person has something going on personally for themselves, how do you get all that to work seamlessly?
Yeah, beautiful question. I've asked myself that question a lot back in the day as well, when I was still in the workforce myself. What I've discovered and uncovered in the last few years is that when we start asking questions rather than filling in the answers for people, things come out that you might not have necessarily been aware of. To give you an example, I was speaking to one of my clients last week, and he's struggling with the relationship that he has with one of his employees. And he said to me, yeah, but he's just doing things the wrong way, and he doesn't want to listen to me, and it's not working, and I'm just going to move into a different team and then they can figure it out. And so I asked him, but what have you asked him about what he needs? Have you asked him the question, how can I help you do a better job? And he sat there for a few minutes, and eventually he looked at me and he said, but I don't have to solve this problem, do I? I said, well, you are not the person that can solve the problem if you are him. You can't change him. You can't expect him to change. But you can ask the questions. You can be curious about what a person might need that they haven't necessarily thought of before. And so incorporating this into daily interactions, into one-to-ones and team meetings, even just asking the question, what do you need to make things better? What can I help you with that is going to support you in doing a better job? And then suddenly things start to change and evolve, because people feel that they're being heard, and people feel that you're actually there to support them rather than just pretending that you're there to support them as a manager, for example.
Do you find that people have difficulty taking ownership of their part in the relationship, and if so, why does that happen? And also, and when they're reflecting on things, it's easier to look at what the other person's doing and really challenging. However, they fear to make the major steps they need for themselves. Do you see that happen a lot with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like, what can I compare this with? Yeah, it's almost like if you see a wild animal, even if it's just a squirrel, if you reach out for it, it's going to just contract back. It's going to go, oh my God, this is scary. What's going on? What's this person doing? And what we often don't realize is that we do the same things with words, right? And so if we then reflect those words back to the person that we're talking to and say, hey, I just heard you say X, Y, and Z, then we allow them to think about what they do. And usually what happens if I'm not perfect either. I sometimes ask the wrong question, and I can just see my client contract and just go, oh, well, that hurts when you say it like that.
Right.
And so it's just a natural reaction, I suppose. But yeah, I do see this often, and especially in the beginning, it takes a little bit of time for people to start accepting that there might be something that they are doing that is causing a person to respond to them in a certain way. And even in the day-to-day, you could have this with family as well. So it's definitely an important thing to bear in mind.
So I'm thinking, Steve, I don't know if you've ever had this, like what Kiona's talking about, but I remember when I was still a teacher, I had a principal for years and years. And I'm going to just be honest, nobody liked her. It was just like, nobody liked her. But she would come in to the classroom looking for a problem. She would write notes or like tell you to come down to her office, but you didn't know why. So everyone was afraid they were getting in trouble all the time. And everyone just felt like they were really on edge. And she kept saying, well, I'm trying to level up our school. I'm trying to like help our test grades. And I'm looking to like really level up our teaching experience. Well, at one point she moved over. She moved up. I don't even know where she went, but she left the position as a principal and we got a new principal in. This person would come in and do exactly what you're talking about. How can I help? How can I support you? What happened when you had this experience with this child? What happened with the parents? How could the school better support you in getting the things that you need to really get better results with the kids? And he started asking all of these questions without anyone feeling defensive, everyone feeling really supported, and the whole environment of not only the school, but the district. Because this other principal was the middle school and then she was the high school. But when the high school started to have this completely different experience, all of the other schools in the district started to notice a change for themselves too, because there wasn't this negativity in the air. And they just all of a sudden were like, oh, we're being heard, we're being supported. And I will tell you, the side effect was that teachers were coming in more often. There was less absences. The kids were getting better test scores. Our state average went up. I mean, kids that I think we started off with like a 75% graduation rate. When I left, it was over 90% graduation rate. So, I mean, I think what you're talking about is so real. And if anybody's watching this right now, if they've ever been in a toxic workplace, if you want to share your experience, share it in the comments, because I think that if we realize that it's something that can be learned, that not everybody necessarily knows how to be the boss. Nobody really is innately a leader necessarily, but if they can work with someone like Kiona and learn what those things are, I mean, it's a game changer for your business. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for rephrasing it in that way, because I believe that's absolutely how it works, right? It's almost like, when you imagine when you were still a young kid and you did something wrong, if your parent would go, you're doing it wrong, and pointing a finger and just being really angry and just bringing that energy of like, I'm so disappointed in you, then you're not going to feel good, and you're always going to be walking on eggshells trying to figure out what you're supposed to do instead, right? And so if we are open enough to say, hey, I don't know how to help you because I don't know you as a person from the inside out, you know yourself better, please tell me how I can help you, how I can support you, rather than having certain expectations and making an assumption that people are just doing it or not doing it for the sake of it, or just because they're trying to what's the word? They're trying to make it worse for you. They're trying to
sabotage you or whatever.
Yes, that's the word. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I just think that the work that you do is so important. And I think that so many businesses should be doing this. Not enough do. So if you had a business that was having these kinds of issues, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I like to ask my clients is, well, where are you now? Have you done an assessment of what your employees actually need? Is there anything in particular that is coming up right now that you feel is actually the first thing that needs to be tackled? You know, asking the questions again, I keep coming back to this, you know, asking the questions and being curious and understanding the current state of your business and understanding what your employees need to help you grow it. That's the first place to start. And that's often what we forget, because what tends to happen is, I've been in so many businesses, I've worked in so many businesses, or I've started so many businesses, I know what my employees need. And while I'm very certain that you will know certain aspects of what your employees need, you're not going to know exactly what these employees need, because they're still different people. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone works in the same way. Not every business is the same. So keep asking, keep reflecting, keep just tuning into, okay, how's the day going? How's the week going? Asking the questions, but also on the flip side, look at what you're doing as a manager, right? Because again, what you're doing is something that your employees are going to reflect back to you, and that's how they're going to work. If you're the type of person that says, hey, you know, I expect you to come in and work from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m., then your employees are going to think that that's expected of them as well. If you're the type of person that says, I think work-life balance is really important, so I don't want you to work a minute more than the absolute standard or whatever is written in your contract, and I want you to leave by 6 p.m., then that is what your employees are going to do. So what I would tell them, and what I tell every single client that I start working with, is, have you looked in the mirror?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's very important. And you have the flip side too, that people that might have issues of toxic relationships at home may be at work more and more, and getting the term as workaholics, but what they're really doing is avoiding what's really the issue at home. Would you agree with
Oh,
that?
yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because it is very, very important to bear in mind that it's not a person, a person at work isn't all that they are. There is so much more to them. And they bring everything to work, regardless of whether they bring it to work actively. It's still going to be there. It's still going to be active in their energy. So, yeah, I completely agree with you that, we need to bear in mind that if we are open to understanding what the individual needs from a work perspective, that might also have very big effects on their personal life too.
So I know we're getting close on time. We got just a few minutes left. So how can people follow you? People, maybe they even want to drop a note to their boss and see how would someone get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to hear from people who would like to have a conversation. I'm always open for a coffee chat on LinkedIn. You can find the link to book a 15-minute call with me and have a conversation. Or, like you say, slip it to your manager if you feel that might be something that they need. I'm also available on Instagram. And of course, as you can see here as well on my website, you'll be able to find a lot more about what I do, who I am, and how you can get in touch with me.
Wonderful. Well, if you could leave us with one nugget of knowledge, one thing, it doesn't even have to be, it could be related to anything you just feel compelled to share. What would be one piece of information that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Oh, I love questions like these. One thing that I want to share with anyone that's listening or seeing this right now or later is stay close to who you are and try and find your own flow. Because in the end, if you're understanding of who you are and what you want in life, then everything is going to come a lot easier and you're going to feel a lot happier. And isn't that all what you want? Be happier.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
Is there anything else, Steve, that before we let Kiona
No,
go?
I mean, what you're doing, I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that don't want family members, nepotism, and frown upon relationships within the workplace. So you could see some of their thought process behind that, and you've actually lived some of that. So I think that a balance is needed. If we take ownership within ourselves, then we could set those limits and boundaries, or balances in place if you're in a relationship at work or not. But that's the key thing, I would think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
We want to
Kiona,
thank
for
you so
coming
very,
on.
very. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you
Steve's
so
normally in
much.
charge, so he's used to taking the reins a little bit, but we were switching it up. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Kiona. We were so happy to have you. Such great
My
information that you
pleasure.
shared with everybody, and hopefully we'll get to have you on again sometime.
I would really love that. Thank you so much for having me again. It's been really great speaking with you both.
Awesome.
Thank you. God bless. Keep up the great work, and we'll see you down the road real soon.
Absolutely.